Good morning, everybody. Welcome to episode 5 of the series of Cervello Live, the show that shares tips, techniques, things that you need to know to run your business efficiently, but also link it to the life you want to live by making sure that you're thinking about your own personal financial plan and how it relates to your business. I'm really pleased today that we've got Jeff on as our guest. Jeff, morning. How are you?
Morning. Very well, thanks, Chris. How you doing?
Good. And we're going to be picking Jeff's brains, exploring what he knows. Jeff's got loads of experience of working with business owners. What do you? I suppose what I've realised is two things as a business owner quite recently, Jeff. Number one, my goals continue to change. So every time I sort of hit a target, it changes again. But also, I never stop learning, and one of the things you realise is that you're never at that sort of pinnacle, are you? It's a continued journey. So what have you learned recently that surprised you?
Oh, blimey. Like you, I mean, I'm, as you can probably tell, I mean, learners are earners and all that. So I'm also a big believer that if you're not learning, it's going to be a very messy and expensive way of growing a business. What have I learned that surprised me? I'm sorry, gosh, that caught me off track there. I mean, I learn a lot of stuff which is kind of repetitive, but you know that sort of repetition, eventually you get it. So the surprise element isn't so often. I think where I tend to get sort of what we call a blinding flash of the obvious. So it's not really a surprise, it's more of a blinding flash of the obvious. And so you sort of read something. I read something around exit, actually. I'm sort of very focused on that at the moment. And although I've got lots of stuff, you're always reading someone else's book on it. And yeah, suddenly you get a little ping in the back of your head that says, "Oh my God, of course, I know that." But I haven't.
Sometimes it's a reminder, right?
Yeah, I stopped talking
I knew that, but it was.
I've stopped talking to my clients about that, and then it kind of sets your compass, and then your next sort of sessions with your clients, it always seems to be relevant. And I mean, the last one was just to do with people's really looking at their business differently. Because you kind of take people on a journey, but absolutely making sure that there's that level of clarity around the pace at which people want to move at and whether they're actually what they're doing is going to get them there. And I think we kind of go on these journeys with people, and sometimes you just need to really sort of kick that hard. You always do it at the start, but it's doing it regularly, and that was a good little blinding flash of the obvious from this book here.
Yeah, fab. You know what? For me, the big one for me recently is when I'm learning. Instead, I'm guilty of doing this: picking up books, reading the book, and then sort of not implementing immediately, and then it's just knowledge that you've not taken action. So what I've decided to do is be a bit more intentional about when I read something, try and teach it to somebody else. Because then you're in, like, sort of,
that's my job. That's how I learn.
Yeah, and then I suppose the other thing is take action on it more immediately, so that actually the practice then becomes the learn, doesn't it? Thank you, Jeff. I've got loads of questions I want to ask you, mate. But what I want to do at the start of the show is share a little bit about the things that business owners should consider when thinking about their own financial plan, and how the business relates to that financial plan. And this is taken from sort of experience of working with a wide range of business owners over the sort of 12 years Cervello's run and before that. Raz, can you share my presentation, please? So we're going to be, as I said, we're going to be interviewing Jeff for the show, and I'm really excited about sharing his expertise. But as I said, what I'm going to do is talk about the 5 essential factors every business owner should think about when thinking about their own personal financial plan and how those two things are linked. And the first one effectively is all about how the value of your business fits into your financial plan. So how do those two things work together? And what we tend to find is we have a lot of conversations with business owners when we're building their personal financial plan, where they say to us, "You know what, Chris, I think my business is worth X. Let's say I think my business is worth £2 million. The reality is that figure that you've got for your business needs to be tested. And the only way to test that is understand what the market believes that your business is worth. Because in reality, what you think it's worth and what the market thinks it's worth, there might be a gap. So understanding what the market thinks it's worth is really important. That's why understanding a little bit more about your sector, your market, look at businesses that are for sale in your market and understand how much it might be worth is really important. Getting an unbiased perspective, somebody who's emotionally disconnected from the business, potentially, to have a look at the business and say this is where it might be actually worth. And there are people out there, and we are connected with a decent number of them. We've got trusted relationships where, for our clients, if they want a business valuation, we work with professional partners to help them do that. And their job, effectively, is to make sure that they're getting the help and support they need to really, number one, sell their business, and number two, look at a situation where they're getting a fair value. However, the challenge you've got is if you're not realistically looking at the value of your business, and it's really interesting because in my working life, in personal life, and in the business, actually, I'm an optimist. Sometimes I've got to take this degree of professional pessimism and say, let's make sure that when we're building financial plans, those financial plans are robust enough to make sure that they're gonna happen. And if we overvalue your business because you're basing it on what you believe it's worth instead of what it's actually worth, that gap we need to close. Now, the reality is, you can do, if your business runs fairly independently from you, and we'll talk to Jeff a little bit about that in a minute, potentially you could get the team to run it, and you could take the income and continue doing what you want with your time. And we'll talk in a little bit about time is the commodity we're really focused on when we're building your financial plan and how you want to spend it. Potentially, it might not be selling your business. It might be the team run it, you take the income from it, and it just continues to run and generate income. If you've got a business model that works like that, potentially the exit of your business might be selling to an employee ownership trust, where the employees of the business are buying the business. Funny enough, I was speaking to an accountancy firm yesterday who is thinking about that. And one of the benefits of that for this particular firm was that they get to keep all their values. They've put the work in to build the business. They've got a successful business, and then their legacy is protected because they can sort of continue how it's run. There's some tax benefits for selling to an EOT, and an employee ownership trust is effectively employees within the business who buy the business from you. However, often with an employee ownership trust, you've got to wait for a longer time to get the money out, because it's normally paid out of profits, and that normally takes a little bit longer than a cash buyer or somebody who comes in and buys the business. So worth looking at. The other alternative clearly is to sell the business to somebody who wants to buy it, and there's a wide range of options you've got in terms of that. But yeah, look at how that value of the business ultimately fits into your own personal financial plan and where it works. And the big part of this is making sure we're realistic, because an overvaluation might give us a really good picture of your financial plan, might make you feel better temporarily because it says, well, if I sell my business, I'm going to be fine. Whereas the reality might be that actually the true value you get from your business won't last for the remainder of your life. What this shows is somebody who gets a capital value out of their business, they think it's going to make sure they're never going to run out of money again based on the lifestyle they want. But the red indicates that actually they're going to run out at some point in the future. And what we do for every single client is build them a financial plan like this. Now, in reality, financial plans tend to be a lot more nuanced, because it's not only, when we're building personal wealth, it's not only the value of your business you rely on. You might have savings, investments, pensions, you might have passive income, you might have a range of things that all fits together in a financial plan. And it'd be the job of working with somebody like me to build all of those elements and say, where do they fit? And what does financial independence mean to you? For somebody who's got a plan that looks like this, they're never going to run out of money again. However, they've then got the first world problem of inheritance tax. So they're going to be in a position where the hard work they've put in, if they want to pass that money on to their kids, they're in a position where they want to make sure they do that in the most efficient way possible. And certainly for a lot of our clients who have built wealth over the years, making sure that they can protect their legacy is a really important thing to do. So that's important to do. When we're talking about protecting legacy, the other important thing to do, and again, this comes back to that professional pessimism and the importance of somebody like me saying, asking you a really fundamental question. And that question is, if something were to happen to you today, if you were to die or suffer from an illness, what would happen to your business without you? Now, clearly, working with somebody like Jeff, he can support you build the systems and processes that mean that actually the business can be pretty autonomous without you. However, if there's a gap today, and you're in a position where filling that gap within the business, building the systems, processes, getting staff might take a bit of time, you might want to consider thinking about what happens in the business without you. Ultimately, we're all building our businesses, hopefully, to give us freedom, to let us spend our time in whatever way we want. But if we're not there yet, what we need to think about is what would happen to us and our families in the event of something happening. And it's a really important consideration to make. And there's two elements that I always focus on when I'm talking about business owner clients. What happens to your family in the event of your death? And what happens if you were unable to work? Now, as I said, if you've got somebody who's got a pretty autonomous business, it can run without them, it continues to generate income, and it's not dependent on their time, that's perfect, because we can look at their cash flow and say, you know what, you're probably going to be all right if something happens to you. In my experience, a lot of people are not there yet or haven't thought about the question, but certainly protecting yourself short to medium term, but building your business medium to long term so that it can be autonomous and work without you is probably the way to go. And there's a bunch of things you can do short to medium term, involving life policies, life cover, and income protection plans in order to do that. One thing I'm thinking about personally at the minute quite a lot, even though I've had amazing service from the NHS over the years, is do I want to wait for medical procedures if I need it? So again, there's other elements you can look at, paid for by your business, that make sure that if you did need anything done medically, you'd be looked after pretty well. Let's talk about the importance of tax on your financial plan. Raz, can you do me a favour? Can you just share that screen, because I'm conscious that my face now is obscuring one of the numbers. Thanks, Russ. I'll let you know when to put it back on. So let's talk about tax. One of the big things that has an impact on wealth is the fact that when you make profits within your business, and this model is a limited company arrangement. So I've taken the example of a director of a limited company, and you take money out as dividends, you typically pay two taxes. Now, if you employ, like we do at Cervello, and if you've got other costs, you might have that, and you might have national insurance through your employees. But when you're extracting profits for yourself, typically the two main taxes that you need to consider are corporation tax and dividends tax, because I'm assuming that for most people they're taking money out as a dividend. So corporation tax has recently gone up, so has dividends tax. So if your business is doing really well, it's super profitable, and you're taking over £150,000 a year in dividends, the amount of tax that you're going to pay on that amount is 64.35%. So you're paying well over half of the money that you get in tax. Even at the lowest rates, you're in a position where that works out to 19% corporation tax and 8.75 dividend tax, meaning that you're losing nearly a third. So between nearly a third and over a half potentially of your profits, of the money you extract from the business, is going in tax. That seems quite a lot. And whilst we live in a economy where you hope your tax is spent well, one of the things we need to think about as business owners is how do we get that balance right of paying tax, but also making sure that we're as efficient as possible. So that's where we are. If you take dividends from a business, you're going to pay between just under 30 and well over half in tax. Alternatively, a pension contribution means that you don't pay any corporation tax. If you set this up as a contribution direct from your business to your pension, no corporation tax and no dividend tax, means that you save between 27.75% and 64.35%. The better that your business is doing, the more you should focus on getting it done. And certainly these things are really important. To give you a really practical example, if you've got a business earning £150,000 a year in profits, Mr. and Mrs. are both higher rate taxpayers, so it's a family business with Mr. and Mrs. at the helm. The amount of tax you'd pay on that is 56.5%, 45,000. You pay it in the pension, you've saved that tax immediately. So it's really important to consider pensions when you're thinking about building your own wealth and the impact of tax when it comes to building your own wealth. Clearly, tax savings are a really big advantage to using pensions. Any growth you get in the pension is tax-free, but also, and increasingly importantly for a lot of my clients, it's free of inheritance tax. So when you put money in pensions, it's within a trust arrangement. So actually what you're getting is no inheritance tax in the event of death. I get to a point now with my clients where their estate's well over £1 million and sometimes often over 2 million. We look at all of the pots of money they've got and where to fund their lifestyle, and pensions might be last, because even though you think about pensions and you think about, oh, actually pensions as a pay for my lifestyle when I'm not working, because they're so efficient in terms of inheritance tax, it might be better to spend other assets first before you sort of tuck into your pensions. A few disadvantages to using pensions. You can't access the money till you're older, so 57 is the age that you can get access to that money. That's slowly increasing, but it's important to bear that in mind. You do pay tax on the way out. 25% of what you withdraw is tax-free, but you do pay tax on the way out potentially. But working with a good financial planner and a good accountant will reduce the amount of tax you pay. It used to be the case that actually if you had too much in your pension, you were in a position where there were limits to the amount of money you could have in your pension in total. Actually, in April, that got scrapped. So the attractiveness of pensions now, particularly for high earners, particularly for people who are doing really well financially, is super important. Next thing I want to talk about is the importance of making stuff either accountable or automatic. One of my favourite books on personal finance is one called The Automatic Millionaire. And the reason it's so powerful is because what I want to do when I'm thinking about my financial plan is put systems in place that basically mean it's done for me. So for me, having a monthly direct debit for Cassie and I, where a significant amount of money goes into our pensions every month, means that I haven't got to think about it. Now, clearly, it's linked to our own financial independence and our own financial plan, but knowing that I don't need to think about it day to day is really important. Because as a business owner, we're busy, right? We're busy running our businesses. So actually, doing stuff that automates, that systemizes, is fundamentally important. And building wealth can be one of those things that you can set up automatic systems to do that. The automatic millionaire is certainly one thing to do that. I suppose the other thing, and this is something that Jeff and I are probably going to talk about, is if you can't make everything automatic, make it accountable. So make sure that you've got somebody on your team, financial planner, business coach, accountant, who reminds you on a regular basis how important this sort of stuff is, so that you can focus your attention on it. Last thing I want to talk about is the importance of time, because when we're building financial plans, we're in a position where what we do is talk about money as a tool to live the life you want. And actually, if you love doing what you do and you love being in your business, great, carry on. But what achieving financial independence means is having complete freedom of time, because time is the finite commodity. I like Steve Jobs's quote on this: "Your time is limited, so don't waste it living somebody else's life." And the other quote I really like is by a guy called Terry Pratchett. People are often so busy living that they never stop to wonder why. So I think both those quotes show you the importance, like illustrate the importance of saying, what are we doing this for? What are we building? Where do we want to get to? And sort of allow us to think about re-navigation. Because having a personal financial plan is about achieving financial independence. So you can choose what you want to do with your time. That might be continue to run the business if you love it. That might be like a lot of my clients doing non-executive directorship, so they still add value to the world. I've got a lot of clients who do loads of work for charity because they've now got the time and they still want to maintain a sense of purpose. So all of that stuff is really important to do. One book that I'd recommend on that is George Kinder's Life Planning for You. Amazing book to recommend. And in the book, he talks about 3 questions. Imagine that you're never going to run out of money again. What would you change about your life? Question 2, you go and see the doctor and he says that you've only got 5 to 10 years left to live. You're never going to be ill in that 10 years, but what would you, if you knew that time was really finite, what would you change? And then number 3 is you go back to the doctor and he said, actually, I got that wrong and you're dying tomorrow. What would you regret not having done? Really important questions to consider when you're thinking about time. That's more than enough for me. I think I'm sort of over talked there, but hopefully there's some ideas, tips, and things to think about, both in your business and your life, to think about what might be next to you. And I'm really pleased to reintroduce Jeff. So we can dig a bit deeper into some of those subjects, actually, because what the work you do, Jeff, is all about giving people time back and making sure that they're doing work like that, but also explore the things that you believe business owners should know when they're thinking about building their business moving forward. Let's start with a really simple open question, though. Tell us a bit about you.
Well, like you, I'm a bit of a talker, so I will try and keep it brief. So I'm Jeff Gosling. I live in West London. Been married with a lovely couple of sons. I own a business called Possessional Effect Limited, based on the law of possession, which is, in this context, if I help enough people, then I'll get where I want to be in life too. So that's the context behind that. The business is set up primarily to help business owners to achieve that financial freedom at the time and whatever they want to do with that time faster than they can on their own, because most don't, as we talk about the stats. And that's, as you mentioned, around helping them create the teams, the time and the money through that business or businesses to be able to do that. That's what the business does. The context to that is addressing the terrible statistics that often get brushed over when people are watching things like this. So this isn't me trying to depress anybody or worry anyone, but it's important people know this, that, 80% of businesses fail in 5 years, only about 6% last 10. We don't know when we're going to exit, right? You're going to exit somehow, we don't know how. And Chris has touched on that. And so that's one set of statistics we're looking to address. There's no reason for all those businesses not to succeed if they get the help they need. And number one. And number two, which is a terrible statistic, is that once they get to the end, 80% of businesses don't sell. And of the 20% that do sell, about 3/4 of owners regret it a year later because they haven't done the stuff that you've been talking about and built it in a way or got the value they need to do what they want to do, or the purpose next, or whatever else. So they're the statistics we're looking to address. I'm a business owner, you're a business owner. We know it's a challenge. So therefore, the heroes of the economy are the people that are trying to generate all that tax you've been talking about.
Well, I mean, I don't know what the specific stats are, but you look at the actual, the economic machine that drives the UK is SME businesses, right?
It is.
So that element is like...
Exactly. So that's what it's all about. My purpose is helping all those business owners. In my business, I'm the hero. I've got a coach. In your business, you're the hero. I like being that guide to other people. It gets me out of bed in the morning, and knowing that everyone I work with at least is in that top 5% or whatever.
Talk to me a little bit about positional effect. So explain that concept to me.
Yeah, I won't go into the weeds, but one of these geniuses from the past called Buckminster Fuller basically equated the law of precession, which is a physical law. Okay, so the physical law is the impact at 90 degrees is far greater than direct. So, for example, the rippling on a pond, if you drop a pebble, the effects are 90 degrees. The other sort of natural world examples used is bumblebees. They buzz around thinking their goal in life is pollen, honey, if they're honeybees. Actually, the 90-degree effect is that they pollinate and create life on Earth. Okay. So we tend to go through life goal setting and doing this and doing that and focused on this and get frustrated when we don't climb that next mountain. And reality is what we sometimes do is forget that the bigger effect we can have in life is at 90 degrees. So precession effects are focusing on the 90 degrees. If I help enough business owners, as we just discussed, then the impact is far greater than if I just focus on my business and making money next month. And obviously, the effect back on me by doing that is far greater, because if you create value, energy, or money or anything else, it ends up coming back, right?
And I think sometimes part of the challenge is that positional effect is too intangible, right? But we don't focus on actually the positive impact, hopefully, that we're making in the world. It's really weird. When you talk about that, I think about the podcast that I host with Charlotte, and think about like how nice it is when somebody comes up to me and goes, I listened to the podcast the other day, and when we're recording it, it just feels like me and her just having a chat in a room and then sharing the interview. But then, like, I don't think you ever understand the impacts some of that stuff that you take for granted has. So I completely get that. I suppose one of the things that you've touched on that I want to explore a bit more is the challenge that you face as a business owner compared to being employed, and the amount of like sort of mindset shift that you need to make when you're thinking about life as a business owner. So how much do you think contributes in terms of mindset, and how much is being a successful business owner, being the best person you can be, developing yourself, and how much is developing the business?
Well, that's I'd always refer to people far cleverer than me. One of my mentors, who invented business coaching and action coach, a guy called Brad Shivers, built and sold 70 companies, owns about 12 without being in them, so it works. And he refers to one of his gurus, who I'd thoroughly recommend if you don't already know him, a guy called Jim Rohn. And so Brad won an award when he was a kid, a Young Business Entrepreneur Award, and he got to meet Jim Rohn, because obviously he's sadly passed away now. And he said to Jim Rohn, "What's the one bit of advice you give me, you know, if I'm going to be successful in business?" And he said, "Well, just read a relevant book a week for the rest of your life and you'll be all right." And then Brad Sugars has done that and still does it, right, as a billionaire. Okay. So, and his often quoted statement is, look, if you learn to work hard on your, if you learn to work harder on yourself than you do on your job, which is your business in this case, you know, if you work hard on your job, you can earn a living. If you work hard on yourself, you can make a fortune. And so, you know, if we just listen to these people, and if you read the books of successful people, if you listen to the podcasts and the interviews with successful people, I've never met one yet who isn't very growth minded and surrounding themselves with other people who are cleverer than them, brighter than them, different views of the world, reading, learning at a rate that most of the unsuccessful people do not do.
Yeah, it as you say, it's that growth mindset, isn't it? You know, just having the attitude that you're never the finished article. You've always got more to learn. You're always like challenging yourself and challenging your perspective, and just going from there. No, I absolutely love that. We've talked a bit about the importance of time and creating more time for business owners. And funny enough, when I was doing the research for this interview, I read one of your blogs about the importance of creating more time, steps we need to take to do this. Can you share with our audience some of those steps and what they should consider?
Yeah, well, you've touched the first one. The first step, in my opinion, is get a coach. Get someone who knows how to do it. Okay. I'm not saying that because you've got to use me. I'm doing pretty well, thanks, and I'm very fussy to work with. So this is a general statement. Okay, if you read these top books, if you read these top entrepreneurs, they have these people around them. So number one, mindset shift is very, very difficult on your own. And the mindset shift we're talking about for most business owners, when I start talking to them, who are very busy in their business and think they're victims of that business and clients and team and everyone else, is the mindset shift to believing what you said: time is more valuable than money. That mindset shift, oh yes, of course it is, you can't get time back. Logically, everyone believes it, but no one does it. And so the mindset shift to actually say, oh my goodness, my time is more precious than my money. When you talk to people about their goals and strategies and what they want help with, it's profit, it's team, it's growth, it's the next step, money, I've got this client meeting. You're not really taking your time more seriously than your money. If you will put yet another client meeting, there will always be loads of client meetings if you're doing a good job, versus actually doing something in the business, what we call leveraged work. Work you do once and you benefit from again and again and again. So you can't create more time. What you can do is increase the number of hours per week being done on leveraged work. So the leveraged works very simply. High leverage is what we've been talking about: learning, growing, developing, doing stuff that helps you forever, right? You've got medium level stuff like training your team or putting in systems and making sure it all. So anything you do once and benefit from again and again and again creates time and money in the future. Anything you do, I do it in my job, like seeing a client or, you know, doing some admin or anything you have to do. Oh, I'll do my own billing. Anything that you do and it happens every month and you could get someone else to do it. You're not building leverage, and leverage is the critical mindset shift that I see, and until the penny drops, it doesn't happen. So I put most of my time in terms of the kind of steps on that step. The next steps are actually very practical. You know, if what gets measured gets managed, right? If you're not auditing your time, literally, right? And I had to build this habit. It wasn't natural to me. I'm a people person, but absolutely nailing down where your time is going, so that you can look at it and go, right, where is it going? What am I going to do about it? Okay. Measure it. Okay. And then you create a matrix of some sort, or a list of some sort. We call it a fun skill matrix and action coach, but you can call it what you like. Effectively, all you're looking to do is categorize it and say, what is the lowest fun, lowest skill stuff on here? Right. And you just bucket it up and you get rid of it. You systemize how you do it. You get other people to do it better than you. Executive assistants. Really, how many business owners get virtual PAs and barely use them, right? proper executive assistants who are really good at grabbing stuff and want to take it off you. They got that kind of punchiness about them. They're gold dust.
Yeah.
So start with the low-hanging fruit, and then you just quarter by quarter, you just work systematically. What am I going to move this quarter? What am I going to move this quarter? How am I doing? And you see my clients measure how many hours they work in a week and how many hours of leverage work they're doing a week. And here's the clever part. When your team are doing leverage work, boom, right? If they're all running around doing their day jobs and you're running around doing it for them, then you're kind of in a normal place. But the journey is measure and move away. And then you're talking about systemization. The two real systems you need to put into your business are people systems, right? Vision, mission, values, org charts, positional contracts, who's accountable for what, who's actually doing everything, right? That frame of systems needs to be in a business. And then you're looking at your management systems alongside that. That's right. Okay, we've got our vision, mission, values. What are we doing 12 months? What are we doing this quarter? What are we doing this week? Weekly one-to-ones, quarterly planning, daily huddles, whatever it looks like. Okay, that system, quarterly socials. Like you said earlier, you can't just sort of do it ad hoc. Oh, we'll do a team building day. No, what are you doing day in, day out systematically to make sure that happens? That is where it happens.
I suppose the other thing that sort of that relates to is, and it's really interesting when I'm speaking to clients, because it's that thing of achieving financial independence. For some of them might be a long-term game. It might be a 10-year game. We're not good actually as humans taking action if it's going to benefit us in 10 years. So what we need to focus on is the little bits, the tiny bits that are going to have a compounding effect to make, and that's where leverage comes into play. Can you give me an example of some really simple strategies that people, I mean, I suppose in my head, Jeff, and we've done this in our business over the years, sometimes that means doing something that feels quite counterintuitive when you start, and say no to clients that aren't profitable, right? And I think sometimes that feels like, what am I doing? But actually it then frees your time up for the more valuable stuff. But can you share some bits can you share some other actions that people might want to consider when they're thinking about leverage actions? Because I really like that concept.
Yeah. Well, then you're getting into the world of proven strategies, and you mentioned one of them, right? Yeah. So if you're running around looking after all your clients, most people want everyone to be happy and all their clients to be happy. And going back to the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, right? 80% of your profit probably comes from 20% of your clients. Okay, 80% of the hassle and the grief and the time and the aggravation is probably coming from 20% of your clients, right? Yeah. Now, if you're running around doing all of that stuff, not leveraged, looking after clients, can't do this, can't learn that, I'm busy with this client, then you're not working on that thinking time, that planning time, okay, what am I going to do? Oh, I see, I've just categorized my clients. These ones pay, these ones do this, these ones are good, these ones fit our values, we like these guys refer us. You start to create the space to go out and get more of them and get rid of. You create a vacuum in your time. It's all about the law of possession is an immutable law of the universe. The other immutable law of the universe is the law of a vacuum. You have to create a vacuum for growth. Now, that might be in your calendar, what you're going to do with it, which is why you need a coach to help fill it with the next thing, or else it will get filled with urgent, demanding work. Okay. And the other, a vacuum you need is in your business. Everyone's operating at busy. I can't hire anyone until I've got enough. I don't know what a pipeline's going to be like. Well, you've got to address that. That's where your dashboards come in. That's where your assessments come in. That's where you look at what clients you're working with. What are you going to get rid of? What are you going to bring in? How good is your marketing? Is it measured? And by the way, most people are juggling between value and profit. Profit today or value in the future. It would be time, obviously, or in case of business profit and value. So what you've got to remember is that if you're doing this stuff and building this stuff, you may not see the profit now. But my goodness me, your business is going to be worth multiples more and be sellable in the future.
So funny enough, I was having this conversation with a fellow financial planner yesterday, and he's earlier on in his journey, and he's finding that he one of the reasons that he believes that he's struggling is because there's a cost of living crisis. And I said, well, actually, for the clients that we look after, it's not been our experience. And I had shared with him that something we did during lockdown 1. So I was panicking. personally. I had to send all the guys home, working from home. I made the schoolboy error of not having Wi-Fi set up in my home office because it's down the back of the house and it doesn't reach. So we're trying to sort of navigate all these things. And markets were temporarily low. So, we had all this. And I said to him, with all of that going on, one thing I sort of wanted to really think about is what clients needed. And effectively what we decided as a team is what clients needed was just knowing we were there, knowing they could phone us at any time, and just making sure that we were on it and they were okay. And I've got one of my clients who's one of the senior guys at Canary Wolf Group, who, when I phoned him, said to me, "Are you giving me the Joey Tribbiani call?"
How you doing?
That's a weird reference. Where did that come from? And basically what I've done is just phone all of my clients and go, "How you doing?" And that's the reason. And actually there was two elements. So number one was that, and then the other element was effectively those calls were just to make sure that nobody made any short-term mistakes that had a long-term detriment to their financial plan. So we use the phrase "this too shall pass" quite a lot in that 3 months period. We don't know when it is. This too shall pass. And I was saying to his fellow financial planner that we didn't win from doing that all the way through 2020. Middle of 2021, we had a significant uptick in client referrals.
Yeah.
So when the dust cleared and it all started settling, and we knew that we could track it because we got the data, all of the referrals were coming from clients where we'd made that Joe Tribbiani call. And it's that element. It's looking at it from a bit of a longer term perspective and saying what you do today might not help you win today, but what's going to help you win in the next 2, 3, 5, and 10 years, isn't it?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. So I've told a couple of stories. I like the stories. What story best describes the work that you do?
I have a lot of videos and clients people talk to, so I like them to do the selling, not me. One of them springs to mind based on the conversation we've had about time. I've got a video of a lovely client, Clara. She came to me in a very common situation. She's working 78 hours, 80 hours a week. She's very driven, didn't mind, young, not somebody who's looking to retire or value and all that. They just wanted to get to that next stage. She become the blocker to her business. Very common, right? The business can't grow because it's more hours and she hasn't got any more. So she wasn't somebody, obviously she kept going, she would burn out like everybody else. That's why a lot of these businesses fail. But she was, gung-ho, like, want my business to grow, still full of enthusiasm. But she couldn't grow a business the way that she was doing it because she built what most people build, which is a hub and spoke business. It kind of revolved around her. She was the best at most of it. And then that transition to the next stage of business, it wasn't going to happen on her own. So if it was, she would have done it. And so with her, we took her from 70 to 80 hours a week, weekends, working in London, talking to clients, doing everything, to she ended up working 35, 40 hours a week, living in a ski resort in France, coming over to London once a week. If we did that in 12 months, but she's quite a sharp lady who did what she's supposed to do. And it was really funny, actually, when you talk about the kind of, I then went skiing over in Chamonix, and not last year, there was no snow, this was a couple of years ago. Anyway, I met up with her for a drink. I said, "Oh, great, let's meet up." So I met for a drink, and it was about the second day of my ski trip. And the first day hadn't gone well. I hadn't skied for a while. And I think as you get older, you get a bit more worried about killing yourself. So I thought, goodness me. Anyway, so I just booked in and did an afternoon with this nice ski instructor. And we went off and had an afternoon. And I met for the beer after that. And I was exuding the benefits of just taking a couple hours out and working with an expert and having a bit, And I said, the rest of the trip, I had proper good skiers like I was skiing with telling me that I was a decent skier. And I would have struggled all week. But for struggling all week trying to get better on my own, I spent a couple of hours with this skiing instructor.
Yeah.
And she literally burst into laughter in front of me. And I said, "Why are you laughing?" She said, "Jeff," she said, "how do you not know that? That's what you do."
You know what though? I think people who help others are murdered for recognising they need their help themselves sometimes. You know,
He's
it's
just like, he's just done in 2 hours what you do to me in an hour a week or whatever. He just resets, gets it faster, resets, gets it faster.
Yeah.
And that was she got there in a year. It's doable.
Amazing. One thing I do want to mention is, as you say, and again, I was having this conversation quite recently. If you're a business owner, one tip that I'd give that's certainly sort of worked for Cervello is what Jeff said. Let your clients tell the story of the positive impact you make on their lives, because we, got very kindly a lot of our clients, and it's on the Cervello website, show the impact, the positive impact we've made in their lives, and certainly that has a great impact. And I suppose one of the things that both you and I add value, and I spoke about this a little bit earlier on, is accountability, right? Just saying, this is what you've told me what you want, this is where you want to get to. Are we taking the action we need to help you achieve that goal? What role does a business coach like you and the work you do with clients play in that, keeping clients accountable? Because I suppose there's a balance, isn't there? There's a balance between keeping clients accountable, number one, not doing it for them, but also making sure that the relationship of trust is there, so that they don't take offence when you when you say you've done that.
That's part of coaching. Yeah. The challenge with coaching is that if you're truly putting the client first, you have to be willing to risk losing them if it's right for them. And so accountability is a massive part of that. It's an interesting relationship, and it takes a little while. I've done thousands of hours, and it takes a little while. It's not something you can learn in a week. It's an hours thing, coaching. So if you're choosing a coach, look at their hours, not their years, because some people do it like a bit here and a bit there. Some people do it all day, every day. But aside from coaching generally, the equation I came up with when I was talking to somebody about my messaging, who's an expert in messaging if anyone needs one, it was success equals clarity. So that's your kind of begin with the end in mind, what you want to do, what you want to achieve, all the stuff you and I both help people with in terms of planning and life planning in the book you just mentioned. So clarity on why you're doing it all. Don't climb a ladder and be up the wrong wall, right? And what the priorities are. People often think it's that, but it's actually that, right? So clarity is up there, right? Multiplied by, right? Not added to, multiplied by proven strategies. So some people come to me because they don't know where they want to go and they need a plan and all that. Business planning, fine, okay. Personal planning, all the stuff we've spoken about, great. Must be done. Start there. A lot of people come to me for proven strategies. They come to me believing that what they're lacking is knowing what to do. You just mentioned a strategy about customers. It could be there's hundreds of strategies. I've got action coach, value builder, I've implemented traction. I've done my coaches scaling up. It doesn't matter. All of the strategies, everything is out there in the world of content, books. There's nothing you don't know. It's just finding the right stuff and doing it, right? So proven strategies is actually why most people come to me. How do I do that, right? And obviously, if I can do it quickly with them, it's a lot quicker than trying to find it and read it and do it yourself. But the next multiplier that few people come to me for in the first place is accountability. It's a multiplier. So if you don't have clarity on where you're going, that desire to get there and that passion to do it, and you don't have, and you're going to make wrong decisions and go in the wrong direction and be reactive. If you don't have proven strategies, you're going to be learning by your own experience alone, which is exceptionally expensive and usually ends up, as we know, with most businesses failing. And then you multiply that by accountability. And if you have any of them zero, like zero accountability, zero proven strategies, or zero clarity, I've never met anyone who hasn't got those three things and been successful ever.
Yeah, interesting.
And so the accountability is that important. And it's usually the thing. Like I still work with my first client after 6 years, and he's not coming to me for strategies every week. No. He wants the outside view, the challenge, the accountability, that different view of the world. And if you look at bigger businesses, they don't operate without it. Non-executive boards, chairman, shareholders. All right, there is no business that functions effectively without accountability. No.
One of the biggest game changers for us. And we do this every time we've got a new project, and I'm thinking about doing it a bit more holistically, is a client board. So and we're lucky, Jeff, that a lot of our clients have got bucket loads of experience. So it's like getting their perspective is always an interesting one for me. Talk to me. I mean, you mentioned something there, and it wasn't one of the questions that I intended to ask you, but I want to ask you anyway. How do you work out whether the coach, like you've said, right? Okay, I get it. You know, I need somebody to hold me accountable. How do you work out who's the right coach for you?
Yeah, I did a little video on that actually once. My belief is, well, first of all, I think it's a very lovely relationship. So I think you need to have a chemistry. You need to feel there's a fit. Okay. So I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I get on with a broad range of people. I love working with a broad range of clients. But yeah, I think you've got to feel that connection, because if you're gonna do it well, then you're gonna do it hopefully for years and hopefully for successful outcome. Number one. Number two, as I said earlier, I think you can like people as much as you like. It's an unregulated industry with a bunch of people who've read a couple of books or read E-Myth or Traction, or had one business that's done all right but no other experience of failure, and they're going around telling everyone they're a coach. So in a world of an unregulated world, unlike your world, although in your world there's definitely good and bad, but in my world it's definitely the case. So yeah, I mean, if people have got lots of badges and they're investing in themselves, like, you know, a top coaches in an environment of top coaches where you can see the badges, the certificates, the accreditations, and the accountability for becoming a great coach. And obviously that gives me comfort. Ultimately, in coaching, you get what you pay for. Do what you can afford. It might be something small to start with, and then you might get, you know, like in a group or in a mastermind or just doing the planning piece. I work with people at very low, like £100 a month, come planning once a quarter, all the way up to thousands of pounds a month to help them grow their business one-to-one for getting out for millions. And then in the middle of the group. So is it group? Is it one-to-one? What can you afford? You're better off, in my opinion, going for a better coach in a group than trying to do one-to-one with a not so good coach. And the other thing to bear in mind is agree the outcomes. What are you going to get out of this? If you do your bit and I do my bit, what's going to happen? I don't want to be a cost to any of my clients. All of my clients should see a return on investment. So what's it going to be?
Yeah, value. what value add are you going to get?
Yeah, it's not a kind of, I had someone, accountants, and I love accountants. I've got some good accountants. I introduce you to good accountants, but fundamentally, a lot of accountants believe they're business advisors, or they're giving business advice that generally sees coaching and learning and all this stuff we're talking about as a luxury. I've heard it from clients. Oh, my accountants are telling me this is a luxury. I'm like, listen, it's not a luxury. It's not.
Yeah,
if you believe it's a luxury, then you are doing it the hard way. And I can prove that's statistically proven across coaching, even with bad coaches. The statistics in the first 5 years of people who got mentors on coaches is pivoted from 80% failing to 80% succeeding, even with a broad range of all sorts of things.
I think the problem you've got, and again, you could probably tell me a bit more about this, because I know accountants that have coaches and have done really well and stuff like that. But I suppose the big thing is cost and value are two fundamentally different things, and sometimes accountants, if they're looking at a spreadsheet, are just looking at the cost and they don't see the value as much.
I look at those. I'm not some. I mean, yes, I do mindset coaching. I use a thing called Spotlight, which is used by GB Sport, UK, Olympic, Man City. I mean, this is proper stuff. But fundamentally, one of the mindset shifts people need to understand themselves and not overplaying their strengths, and the person doing it will do it differently, and all of that stuff's super important. But fundamentally, I also nailed down people's numbers. It's in the foundations of what I do with people. And I look at people's numbers far more involved than accountants do, generally. And I've got tools that I can use to show them what they're doing in their business that accountants don't use but should. So fundamentally, even on the financial side, I'm more than comfortable looking at this. It's not some woolly turn up and you feel a bit better. This is business coaching.
Yeah, 100%. Talk to me. I mean, one thing you mentioned in terms of one of the tools in your kit bag is Value Builder. Tell me a little bit specifically about what Value Builder is and how that impacts the relationship you have as a coach with the clients you work with.
Yeah, so Value Builder, I did 2019. I did, as you can tell, if there's something I can leverage that's already working, like Action Coach or Value Builder or any of these things, books, whatever, if you can leverage all that, it's a lot quicker than me inventing it all myself and telling everyone I know more than anyone else. So when I'm talking to people about Action Coach, thousands of years, 20 years, thousands of companies, you know, it's not me making it up, right? Likewise, you take stuff from all these other books and all these other systems. Value Builder is a really important one because what a lot of people look for is organic growth, profit. You know, how can I have more time, more money, and a better team? And that's what most business systems, quite rightly, should focus on to start with. However, Value Builder is by another guru of mine called John Warlow. I trained with him in 2019, and he's developed a system called Value Builder, which statistically, not made up, so work on these things, and it will statistically improve two things. Number one, the probability of even getting an offer, because most businesses don't, certainly not anything worth considering. And two, the probability of that being a higher multiple than the averages that you'd expect in a normal business in your industry of the profit of the EBIT. So effectively, it's a framework, a process. And to me, it's about helping to educate clients. It's part of the programs. I don't go off and do it separately. It's just I do it all in one go. So I've got a number of frameworks. It's up to me to use the right tools from the right toolkit, and Value Builder is one of them. I also increasingly am focusing on companies who are maybe later stage. And people who are like, this is why we've obviously got chatting, people who are considering their financial future, and maybe they haven't done coaching, maybe they've got a business that's been going for 20 years and they think they're doing all right, but now they're in a position where they're going like, yeah, but I've never sold one before. And so the other place I'd use, not just Value Builder, but a whole exit planning program, which isn't about growing them to be a great business owner. It's literally about getting them out as valuably as possible. Bang.
Yeah. Great. Amazing. Talk to me a little bit about where people can find you online. We're on LinkedIn now, or potentially YouTube, but I suppose LinkedIn is the first port of call, but I'd imagine you've got other ways that people can get in touch.
Yeah, so absolutely. LinkedIn, Jeff Gosling. There's a few Jeff Goslings out there, but Jeff R. Gosling in the URL. I'm reasonably prominent on LinkedIn, do content and everything.
And we'll put that in the show notes as well. So when we put on YouTube,
LinkedIn,
we'll make
Jeff
sure
R. Gosling. If you want to email me, it's Jeff, Jeff Gosling, Gosling, all one word, at actioncoach.com. So Jeff Gosling at actioncoach.com. And also, I thought about this, Chris. One of the things I include in my programs for my clients is a business book summary service called Read It For Me. So somebody does... It's basically a quick way of getting all the stuff out of a book that you're not sure you need to read the whole thing, or a reminder of a book you have read. It's really cool. And there's other things out there, and it's about $400 a year, and I do it for my clients. But I bought a platform license, which gives me a number every month that I can share. So if anybody messages me and says, hello, I listened to you on Cervello, I will gift them. And they don't have to work with me or become a client or do anything with you. But if they've taken the time to learn and listen to this, then I will gift them a Read It For Me license worth $400 a year.
Fab. Perfect. Well,
just put Cervello in the note, though. Otherwise, I don't know.
Yeah, just keep track of it. Perfect. We'll share that as well. Jeff, thank you for sharing your insights today. I've learned a lot. I'm thinking a lot now about that sort of action of leverage and whether I need to spend my time doing stuff differently. Thank you for watching on LinkedIn or YouTube. Hopefully you've got some insight, and we'll see you next time on Cervello Live.